Hello, I'm Jelmer Vernooij, and I'm going to talk today about the Debian Janitor. I will talk about what it is, what it's done so far, and then finally about what I'm planning to do with it in the future. Hopefully we'll also have a couple of minutes at the end for questions. So this is the culmination of about 2 years worth of work on a couple of related projects. Most of it was on the Janitor itself, some of it was on Lintian-Brush, and some of it was on a project called Silverbladder. Anyway, let's get started. So if you're a Debian packager, you're probably familiar with Lintian. Lintian is a tool that can scan Debian packages and it can report common packaging issues. It categorizes issues by tags, and you can see the documentation for one of those tags here. This is the tag carriage return line feed. So Debian control files should not contain any carriage return line feed pairs, and Lintian will tell you when your package has control files that do. It also actually tells you the command that you can run to fix the problem. So what if rather than requiring the user to run Lintian and then copy and paste the command, we just ran the command for them? That's the basic idea behind a tool called Lintian-Brush. So Lintian-Brush is basically a set of 125 different scripts that can automatically fix common Lintian issues. It's also a framework that allows you to easily write those scripts and to run them. So the framework provides all of the interaction with the Git repository for you, so you don't have to worry about that. It also takes care of updating the Debian changelog file for you if the package doesn't use git build package with gbpdch, for example. Most of the fixes do things that would take a developer a couple of minutes each, and Lintian-Brush would make those actions at most a couple of seconds. Per package, that doesn't seem like much of a difference. Like you're at most saving a minute here or there. But if you imagine that you can do this for a lot of issues across the entire archive, there are some benefits to be had there. One of the other thoughts behind Lintian-Brush is that it should be easy and fast to run when it doesn't have anything to do. So if the package doesn't have any issues, then Lintian-Brush should basically just notice that and exit. And today, if you run it on a large Git repository, it should finish within a second or two. So here's an example fixer script for Lintian-Brush. As I mentioned before, most of the heavy lifting is done by the framework. So the fixer scripts get run in a pristine version of the package. Their changes will be reverted unless they exit with code 0 and report what they've changed on standard output. Lintian-Brush uses things like iNotify to track what changes a fixer makes. The fixer scripts can be written in any language, but most of them are currently written in either Python or Shell. This is an example script written in Python, and it, as you can probably tell, it basically just replaces priority extra with priority optional. So this is basically addressing the fact that Debian policy, I think 401, deprecated the priority extra value. This particular fixer uses the debmutate library to make changes to the Debian control file. So if the library is unable to preserve the formatting of the control file, or if the control file doesn't exist, it will raise an exception. And since that exception isn't handled by the script, it'll just bubble up, and the script will exit with a non-zero exit code, and whatever changes it may have made previously will be discarded. So Debian has about 30,000 source packages, and of those source packages, more than 20,000 packages are actually hosted on Salsa today. A good number of the other packages are in Git somewhere, but they're on other hosting sites or on people's personal servers. We can easily find the locations for those repositories by looking at the vcs-git field. So that makes it really easy to go out and download the Git repository that belongs to any source package. Since Salsa is an instance of GitLab, it has an API for creating pull requests, which is actually really, really useful. Not everybody is aware of the Lintian-Brush tool that I was talking about before, and they also have to remember to actually run it. So rather than making every developer remember to run Lintian-Brush and to be aware of it, why don't we just go out and proactively do it for them? The effort for actually merging a merge request should be fairly low. Like, the only thing the developer really has to do is glance at the changes, make sure that they're reasonable, and then push a button in the web UI. Another thing that's really nice about this is that it gets us to run Lintian-Brush across the entire archive on a wide variety of packages, and that's a really, really nice way of discovering bugs in it. And so it's a really good way of improving its quality. So that's the basic idea behind the janitor. It's a bot that looks at all of the packages in the Debian archive. It finds the ones that are hosted on Salsa, clones them, runs Lintian-Brush on them. If there are any changes, it creates a merge request for them, and hopefully the developer will go and merge that merge request. And then it also has a lot of instrumentation to track which fixers, for example, failed for particular packages, so that can be debugged. There are a couple of things to watch out for when doing this. So the goal behind the janitor is to save developers time and to save them effort by automating things away that can be done by a robot, so that they can focus on things that require human judgment. When the janitor makes a change that is incorrect, there's actually no time saved, and in fact, quite the opposite. There's time wasted because the developer ends up looking at the merge request, possibly commenting on it. The package isn't improved, and so the developer has to now manually make those changes. And presumably when they get the next pull request from the janitor, they're way less inclined to look at it. And they're probably also way less inclined to enable auto push for the janitor. The actions of the bot are restricted to a limited set of problems for which there's an obvious action that can be taken. So it's not meant to automate all packaging or even to cover automating of all instances for the issues that it knows about. It will opportunistically find things that it can fix, and if it is sure that that is the correct fix, it will make it. If it's not sure, if it doesn't know what to do, it will just back off and move on to the next issue. So Lintian-Brush has a way of communicating the certainty for fixes, and the janitor will only include those changes that have the highest certainty. Lintian-Brush has unit tests for all of the fixers, and whenever we discover a bug, we will add a unit test for the bug that we've discovered along with the fix. Before any changes make it out into a merge request, the package gets built with and without the changes to make sure that it still successfully builds. And if it has auto package tests, we will also run the auto package tests both on the original package without the changes and the package with the changes to verify that it still succeeds. If any of those steps fail, then the changes will simply be discarded. Once all of those steps succeed, there's a QA step where a human looks at the diff between the source package before and after the change, and then can possibly mark the change for further investigation. This is a step that was very useful in the past for finding issues, but for the last couple thousand merge requests, we haven't found any issues here. And then in order to give developers control over what the janitor is doing, there are a certain number of other steps that we take. So we'll only open a single merge request per package. And if we process the package again for whatever reason, we'll update the existing merge request rather than create a new one. Per maintainer email, we'll rate limit the number of open merge requests. So by default, every maintainer is sent just a single merge request. If they do something with that merge request, like if they merge it, then we'll send them another 2. Once they merge those 2, we'll send them another 4, up to a limit of about 20. If they ignore that first merge request or if they close it, we won't bug them again. The bot identifies itself as a bot so that you know the merge request is automated. But you can otherwise just interact with it as you would if the merge request was sent by a human. So if you comment on a merge request, I will look at the comments. The bot isn't clever enough to do that yet, and I will follow up to it. We also include the binary deb diff in the merge proposal description so that you can see what the impact is on the binary packages. In addition to that, we include a link to the diffoscope diff, although for packages that aren't reproducible yet, that can sometimes be a little bit noisy. But hopefully that is an extra incentive to make your packages reproducible. So the amount of ongoing maintenance that the janitor needs is fairly low. I monitor the rejection rate, so the number of merge requests that get closed rather than merged. And the vast majority of those are just people cherry picking rather than merging changes. The sort of true rejection rate is probably somewhere around 1%. Then I follow up to merge proposal comments. That's maybe 1 or 2 a week. And then finally, there are a lot of changes that have to be QA reviewed, and that's in sort of the hundreds a week. And then if at any of these steps, any Lintian-Brush or Janitor bugs are found, that will usually result in either disabling fixers and tracking down any previous changes that have been made by those fixers, and possibly following up on that. And then finally, actually fixing the bugs in Lintian-Brush. So the results so far is that the janitor started sending out merge requests at the end of 2019. Since then, about 5,000 changes have been pushed and about 5,000 merge requests have been opened. And about 4,000 of those 5,000 merge requests have been merged. So that leaves about 1,000 open. So how can you help? First of all, you can help by applying changes from the janitor to your own packages. So that means either reviewing merge requests. You can go to the long URLs listed there for a list of your merge requests, and for more information about attempts from the janitor to fix packages that fail to build, for example. And then second of all, you can enable auto push for your repositories if you're comfortable with that. And the FAQ for the janitor has more information on how to do that. And then furthermore, you can help by improving the tooling. So any kind of change provided by Lintian-Brush and by the janitor needs to be detected first, and that's what Lintian does. So you can help by improving Lintian. And then second of all, you can help by implementing more Lintian-Brush fixers. So hopefully you get some idea of how to do that with the slides I presented earlier. So what's next? So there are a couple of challenges. First of all, a lot of the changes make it into the Git repository, but they don't actually make it into the archive. So about 80% of the changes that are merged or pushed into the packaging repository have not actually made it into the archive. There have been a couple of efforts to make it easier to upload changes from Git repositories into the archive, like tag to upload, for example. But as far as I know, those have all stalled. And then secondly, there are a lot of packages that aren't actually hosted on a platform supported by the janitor. So there are more than 600 packages that are still listed as being on Alias, and for which there's no obvious replacement on Salsa, even if you apply some clever heuristics. Then there are a bunch of packages that are hosted on dgit, and as far as I know, dgit doesn't support pull requests of any kind. There are some ways around packages that are hosted on Git repositories that are on hosting platforms that don't support pull requests, Like, for example, we could file bugs with git diffs attached. But there's probably a lot more discussion required there, because you'd want the threshold to be higher for those kinds of changes, because there's more effort involved, because you have to clone the Git repository, you have to download the patch, you have to apply the patch, commit the patch, push the changes back to the Git repository. And that's more effort than just going to a web UI, glancing at the changes and hitting merge. And then finally, there is the issue that on Salsa there are a lot of large teams with a large number of packages. And because of that setup, there's basically nobody that gets emailed whenever a merge request is created. And so that means that there are a lot of merge requests just sitting there. And maybe at some point somebody happens to see the merge request. But it does mean that there are a lot of sort of stale merge requests. So my plans for the future, among other things, are to add support for making or applying multi-arch fixes in addition to the Lintian fixes, and to start importing new upstream releases. So the new upstream releases will basically involve running uscan and committing changes to the upstream branch and the pristine tar branch, and then creating merge proposals. So the Debian Janitor and Lintian-Brush are basically two thin layers that rely on a lot of existing infrastructure that's been built over the last couple of years for Debian. We use VCS Git headers to find the relevant repositories. We use VCS Watch to track the status of those repositories. The fact that most of the packages are now on Salsa means that we can actually create pull requests for most of the packages. Lintian and the archive-wide Lintian run make it possible to know which packages to actually process. UDD means that we can easily get at the information from the other data sources. Auto package means that we can be a lot more certain about the changes that we're making. And finally, the Jenkins.debian.net service means that, or it is currently running most of the actual work that the janitor is doing. And then finally, there are a lot of changes in the janitor that are the result of comments that people have left on various pull requests. So many thanks for those, and many thanks for actually merging pull requests. That was it. You can find more information on the homepage or the two blog posts linked there. And then finally, you can go to the long URL below to see all of your pull requests that are currently open. And then hopefully I will be around somewhere on either Jitsi or IRC for questions.
2 seconds.
Right. Yeah. So I think there are a lot of questions on the pad, and we're probably a little bit short on time. So if you have more questions, please leave them on the pad, and I'll try and answer them there.